Michael B. Jordan was playing basketball alone on a quiet urban court tucked between two red brick apartment buildings when the rumble of engines broke the rhythm of the bouncing ball. The echo of each dribble swallowed up by the low growl of approaching motorcycles, and as the bikes rolled up and the engines cut, a tense silence settled over the space, pierced only by the sound of boots crunching gravel as a group of 5 leather-clad bikers dismounted and strode toward him with a kind of slow, deliberate swagger. Their eyes locked on Michael like predators testing a boundary, and the tallest one, a bald man with a jagged scar running across his cheek, stepped forward and said in a low, almost lazy tone, "Hey, man, you're on the wrong court. This is ours." And Michael, still holding the ball under one arm, looked up calmly, wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, and replied with a half-smile, "Is that right? I didn't see your name on it," which drew a few low chuckles from the other bikers, but not from Scarface, who took a step closer and said, more firmly now, "We don't need names, bro. We're telling you, this is our spot. You got 10 seconds to bounce." And for a heartbeat the court held its breath, suspended in that strange place between threat and theater. But Michael didn't flinch, didn't step back, just tilted his head slightly and asked, "And what happens if I don't?" And that was the moment everything changed, not just because of the question, but because of how he asked it, not with arrogance, not with fear, but with something in between, something that made the bikers exchange glances, a flicker of uncertainty in their hardened eyes. Like they suddenly weren't sure if they were the ones in control of the situation anymore, and Scarface's jaw tightened as he said, "Then it gets real uncomfortable for you. And yet even now." Michael didn't move, didn't blink, just bounced the ball once, twice, slowly, the sound sharp in the silence, and for a second you could feel it, like the court, the buildings, even the air was waiting, knowing that something bigger was coming, something that hadn't shown itself yet, but was already on the way, like thunder under your feet before the storm hits. And Michael simply said, "I'd like to see what uncomfortable looks like." And just like that, the tension snapped, and one of the younger bikers, all wired nerves and puffed up bravado, lunged forward, swinging a wild punch. But Michael stepped aside with the smoothness of someone who knew his own body like a weapon, and the biker stumbled past him, momentum out of control, tripping over his own aggression and hitting the ground with a thud that echoed off the backboard and sent a tremor through the group. And now all of them were staring, not just at their fallen friend, but at Michael, at the man who had just dodged violence like it was a breeze on a summer day. And there was something in their faces now that hadn't been there before, not fear exactly, but realization, like they'd stepped into something they didn't fully understand. Like maybe this wasn't just another court, and Michael wasn't just another guy. And as they helped their friend up and stood in silence, processing the shift in power that had just taken place, Michael held the ball again and looked at them, not with anger, not with gloating, but with that same calm he'd had from the beginning, the calm of someone who knew this wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. And maybe that's what kept the bikers frozen in place, because they could feel it too, that something was just beginning, that this small confrontation on a forgotten court was about to ripple out into something bigger, stranger, more important than any of them could guess. And if you're watching this wondering where it's going, wondering if it's just about a fight on a court, I'm telling you, wait, just wait, because this story is worth it. And what's coming next? You're not ready for it. Michael smiled, just a small tilt at the corner of his mouth, like someone who'd seen this kind of thing before and knew exactly how it would play out. And he looked at the biker who'd spoken with the same relaxed confidence he brought to every movie set. Only now it wasn't a character he was playing, it was real, and it mattered. And he said, "And why exactly is this your court?" With a voice so even, so composed, it made the question land harder than a shout ever could, and the biker squinted at him, clearly not expecting that kind of coolness, and snapped back, "Because we said so, man, that's why. Now get outta here before something happens you won't like." And the moment he said it, something in the group changed. The air thickened like storm clouds were circling above, even though the sky was perfectly clear. And there was this flash in Michael's eyes, not anger, not fear, but something alert, calculating, patient, like he was measuring every word, every breath. And after a second, he took a step forward, not back, just one step, but enough to make two of the bikers glance at each other. And he looked straight at the one who'd just threatened him and asked, "What exactly do you think you're gonna do to me?" In a way that wasn't mocking or smug, it was sincere. Like he was inviting a real answer, and that's what made it so unsettling to them. Because people like Michael weren't supposed to ask that question like that. Like it wasn't rhetorical. Like he honestly wanted to know, and maybe the one he was speaking to thought he had something to prove. Maybe the silence from his crew got under his skin. Or maybe it was the way Michael didn't seem the least bit worried. But whatever it was, the guy suddenly snapped, like something short-circuited in him, and with no warning, he charged forward, fist already rising in the air, aiming straight for Michael's face. The others watching in silence, like the whole court was holding its breath. And that punch, it came fast, wild, sloppy, all adrenaline and no control. And just as the guy's arm swung out, Michael shifted, not running, not flinching, just a smooth step to the side, a turn of the shoulders, and the biker missed so badly he practically tripped over his own momentum, stumbled hard, and hit the concrete with a crash that sent dust flying and left a long, scraping echo ringing through the court like a gunshot in a canyon. And now everything stopped, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally. Like time cracked open, and for a moment nothing made sense to anyone standing there, because that was not what was supposed to happen, not to them, not here, and definitely not to one of their own at the hands of someone who didn't even break a sweat doing it. And the biker on the ground groaned, rolled over, tried to gather himself. But his face told the whole story. He wasn't just hurt, he was humiliated, confused. Shaken by the fact that the man they'd just tried to intimidate had flipped the entire situation in the blink of an eye, and now all eyes were on Michael again. Except they weren't sizing him up this time, they were studying him. Like maybe they'd missed something the first time around. Like maybe they didn't know who they were dealing with after all. And Michael, still holding the basketball loosely in one hand, stood over the downed biker and said quietly, "You might want to rethink your approach." And there was no boast in his voice. No gloating. It was more like a teacher delivering a lesson, and the others didn't know how to respond, because this wasn't part of their usual script. They were used to people backing down, walking away, handing over respect without it being earned. And suddenly they were standing there, unsure, like kids who got caught doing something they weren't supposed to do. And even Scarface, the leader, the one with the scar and the bark and the threats, looked rattled, like he'd just been handed a puzzle with too many missing pieces. And what happened next wasn't expected. Not by them. Not by anyone watching, not even by Michael himself, because the biker on the ground sat up, breathing heavy, looked up at Michael and said, "How the hell did you do that?" And the others, still locked in their stunned silence, waited for an answer. But Michael just looked at him, gave the slightest shrug, and replied, "I play a lot of defense." And for the first time, one of the bikers, this wiry guy with a patchy beard and sunglasses still on, chuckled, just a single sound, almost against his will. And Scarface turned toward him sharply, like he was about to shut it down. But then something even more unexpected happened. The guy who'd tried to punch Michael reached out, not to swing, not to attack, but to get up, and Michael extended a hand and pulled him to his feet, and just like that, the dynamic shattered, the script flipped. The whole interaction cracked wide open into something no one had predicted, and you could feel it, this strange energy on the court, this sense that something had been exposed, some deeper truth, not just about power or respect, but about people, about what happens when someone doesn't play by the rules of fear. And Scarface looked at the others, then at Michael, and for a second, it looked like he might go back to the old way, double down, throw another threat, restore the pecking order, but instead he muttered something under his breath, not quite loud enough to catch, and stepped back, and though he didn't apologize, he didn't tell Michael to leave either. And in that small act, that silent concession, the whole court shifted again, like the first crack in a wall that's about to fall. And maybe they didn't realize it then. Maybe they thought the moment had passed, but it hadn't, not really, because what had just happened was the first domino, the first signal that this wasn't the story they thought it was. And if you're still watching, wondering what this is all leading to, wondering if it's just about some guy getting lucky on a court, don't blink, because what's coming next is going to show you something deeper, something these bikers never saw coming, and something even Michael didn't expect to face. So stay with this, stay on this court with them, because this story, it's only just started. The biker who had tried to throw the punch, the one who had fallen hard on the concrete, slowly got to his feet, shaking his head as if trying to clear away the disbelief that still clung to him. And there was something in his eyes, a mix of shock and admiration, that hadn't been there before. He looked at Michael, not with the same brash defiance that had led him to charge, but with a kind of stunned realization, like he had just been forced to confront something far bigger than he had bargained for, and for a long moment, neither spoke. The other bikers, too, stood frozen, eyes darting between their fallen comrade and Michael, and then, finally, the biker who had been knocked down straightened himself up, dusted off his leather jacket, and gave a small, almost hesitant nod in Michael's direction, like he wasn't quite sure what to say, but knew he had to say something. "Man," he started, his voice quieter now, more measured, I didn't think you could move like that. Hell, I didn't think anyone could move like that. You really got me good." And there was no anger in his words, no threat, just something raw, something like respect. And Michael, still holding the basketball, looked back at him with that same calm expression, the one that didn't shout, didn't boast, but that made everyone around him feel the weight of his presence. "It's all good, man," Michael replied simply, his tone even, but there was an underlying warmth to it, a hint of understanding. "I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to play." And that seemed to break something in the air, like a dam giving way, because one by one, the bikers started to speak up, their voices less harsh, less filled with the bravado they'd arrived with. The one who had been standing silent for the longest spoke next, his gruff voice softening. "Yeah, sorry about that. We didn't mean to come at you like that. We're just used to getting our way, you know? But we get it. We won't bother you again." And the other bikers nodded, murmuring their agreement, their voices almost apologetic, and for a second, Michael just stood there, letting the weight of the moment sink in. He could have pushed for more, could have thrown his weight around and demanded an apology, but he didn't. He just nodded, acknowledging their words without needing anything more. It wasn't about winning for him, it was about the peace that came after. And as the silence stretched out between them, something shifted in the dynamic, something deeper than just the physical confrontation that had happened on the court. The bikers, who had come in ready to assert their dominance, who had thought they could intimidate him, were now the ones who were humbled, not by a fight, but by something as simple as respect. Michael turned toward the hoop, dribbled the ball once, twice, then looked back at them. "So," he said, his voice light now, the tension gone, "you guys want to shoot around? I mean, we've got a court, right?" And for a moment, the bikers looked at each other, and then, one by one, they started to smile, a real smile. Not the forced kind they wore when they were in control, but the kind that came from something genuine, something unexpected. And just like that, the situation shifted again from confrontation to something else entirely, something that none of them had expected. They took off their jackets, tossed them aside, and soon enough, all 5 of them were on the court, dribbling, shooting, laughing, the earlier tension forgotten like it had never been there at all. Michael played like he always did, smooth, effortless, but with a kind of intensity that came from his love for the game and the bikers who had come to intimidate him. Now found themselves caught up in the rhythm of the game, working together, passing the ball, taking shots, no longer divided by the power dynamics they'd walked in with. It was just basketball, pure and simple. And as the game went on, the competitive fire still burned in them, but it was no longer a fight. It was a shared challenge, a game they could all enjoy together. There were no more threats, no more insults, just the sound of sneakers squeaking on the court and the satisfying swish of the ball going through the net. And as the sun began to dip low in the sky, casting long shadows across the pavement, the bikers, once tough and imposing, were now just a group of guys, laughing and teasing each other. Just like anyone else who had found a moment of peace on a basketball court. Michael smiled to himself as he made a perfect shot, the ball arcing through the air and sinking effortlessly through the hoop. For a moment, everything was still, everything was perfect, and the world felt just a little bit smaller, just a little bit kinder. The bikers hadn't just come to the court to fight. They had come to prove something to themselves, something about power, about control, but they left with something far more important. The understanding that respect, true respect, isn't something you take by force. It's something you earn, through the way you carry yourself, through the way you treat others. And as they high-fived each other and walked off the court together, no longer as adversaries, but as something closer to equals, Michael glanced at them one last time. And there was something in his eyes, something satisfied, something fulfilled, because he knew that the real victory wasn't in the game, but in the way they'd all come together. No longer divided by their differences, but united by the simple act of playing the game. And as he bounced the ball one last time and turned to leave, there was no need for words. The court had said it all.